it's MJ. Apologies, I got cut off on the last live stream and I don't think it was uploaded. So I want to share again, it's beyond spirituality and practical action for positive change, and why we're sort of being popped out the other side of a lot of spiritual work or spiritual community or kind of consciousness talk and all of that, because there's almost this like restlessness, right? That people are wanting to see action. People want to take action in a positive direction. So for me and all to love, how that looks is like attending rallies or attending peaceful protests, and meeting more people and doing more talks and opening up the conversation to more and more people outside of so-called spiritual communities. At the same time, bringing in conversation and bringing like things like sexuality into spiritual communities. So lifting the lid on where we're denying aspects of our humanity in our holistic communities, and then bridging that to take, you know, certain spiritual edges into just the world, right? So more and more companies advocating the zero waste and the plastic free stuff. More and more companies advocating a plant-based vegan lifestyle, because that is one of the best things we can do for the environment. Calling people out, calling out corruption. It's one thing to, you know, talk about all this love and light, but if we can't be strong in ourselves and say what we mean and say what we truly desire from our heart space, from a place of integrity, then all that spiritual work doesn't serve us. It just serves to divide us more, right? It serves to say, oh, look how enlightened we are and how shitty the rest of the world is, right? So there's this great disparity in any kind of divisiveness, any kind of segregation, any kind of like, I'm better than you or I'm worse than you, right? So for those of us that are maybe just being guided in new directions, it's all about us embracing that merging of self and embracing the fact that we are the change that we desire to see, you know, and empowering ourselves to speak up, to stand up, and to take action, right? It's so, and that, I gotta say, like going back to when I spent time in India and I spent time on an ashram and in different institutions, right? Spiritual or yoga institutions, and a couple kind of alarm bells. One was like, the fact that in India, you know, yoga is actually a really privileged thing. Just like when I went to university, and the reason I left university was because I was like, oh, only 1% of the population even has access to university? Well, this is an elitist bullshit trap, isn't it? Although, again, critical thinking and academia, there is a place for that. It's just, it makes me kind of sad that we cut off, that everyone doesn't have access, okay? Just like energy and food. I just truly believe that every single human being has a right to learn and should have access to clean, healthy food and should have access to clean water. Like, duh. I sort of just think like, how is that not how we all want to operate, right? Because the suffering of people in the world is our own suffering too, right? So beyond our exclusivity, you know, and then another bit was the aspect of like worshiping deities like outside of self. That doesn't really resonate. And then also like another angle with why I am who I am and do what I do is like going to an ashram of like, this is how to live and this is how, you know, selfless service and karma yoga and doing your yoga practice at this time and this time, and this is how you eat and this is how you live, and everybody has to cover up because there's like underlying shame around the body, and ultimately because when women started to practice yoga, women's bodies were a big distraction, and so we had to all cover up and wear the same clothes, right? So there's a piece there, and then there's this whole like denial of sexuality, right? Like this repression, this like like denial of the body. And so the leaders in this ashram that I attended they were really like austere and serious. And like, I just thought to myself, knowing that there's this whole world out there of people all fucked up on lots of different levels, and this beautiful yoga practice, and that not everybody gets access to the yoga, and that I'm guided to attend this, like, the high and mighty schools of yoga, and I'm there, and the leaders are just like, and then when you ask questions like, yes, when one meditates, I'm like, when you meditate, you mean? Like, I don't want to just hear what you learned about in the books. I want to hear about your direct experience, you know? And ultimately, if we want to really sell these spiritual practices, we have to make them fun. We have to be an example of the joy and the radiance that these practices bring into our lives. And ultimately, if we're just going through the motions, whether it's a fucking yoga class, whether it's running a marathon, whether it's sitting in meditation, whether it's going to our work, whatever, if we're just robotically going through the motions, we're not living. We're not inspired. We're not in spirit, you know? So yeah, we can talk about spirituality, but unless we're living the truth of our own spirit, then we're just going through the motions. So we can apply the mechanical, systematic patterns to anything, whether it's yoga or working on Wall Street. The shift is a full, embodied, emotional, mental process, because you're infusing your physical body, your physical vessel, with what we would call higher consciousness, which is a consciousness or an awareness or a perspective that unifies your field to feel the integrity of everything and everyone around you. And from that field, it's too painful to try to control and manipulate. It's too painful to even be around people who still want to control and manipulate. Energetically, the disparity is too great. So we have to keep popping out. We have to keep kind of, as Bentinho says, following the breadcrumb trails of our own spirit essence, guiding us through this life. Life. It's just one life. It's just you and life, you know? You are the life around you. And really, we're living in times where this awareness is, young ones, people are born with this sense of self. People are already, they don't need to meditate. They're already there. You know, that's the kind of quantum essence of this big bridging process. Is the jump that we're making is pretty huge, right? And so your connection to yourself is really, really, really the most important thing, you know? And how we link arms and how we meet one another is always to do with your own integrity, you know? And then really what I'm seeing and sensing and feeling and experiencing is that integration and the clarity, and then also the clarity of being the reflection. So also holding space and feeling into where density is in the other, right? And being able to accurately discern what, like, the proximity, basically, right? And the length in that proximity, because energetically speaking, as you become more self-responsible, it's always your responsibility. If you're going back into patterns, or if you're going back into density, or if you're whatever, you know, it's such a fascinating journey. It's a beautiful exploration. And yet finding ourselves into that purpose flow, feeling our way into this new paradigm, as it were, it's pretty, like, wild, you know? It's a bit of a head fuck, because we really are asking ourselves to completely surrender mind, to completely let go of the attachment to thinking our thoughts are right, you know, thinking our thoughts know something as a contained, knowable thing. And yet, because we are the creators of anything, we recognize that we know what we ever choose to know. So if our knowing is then limiting and restricting our expansion, we have to just completely surrender the thought, feel into the merging, and then be the change. So let's be guided together, you guys. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? true. And I don't know, did I mention this about me being guided to hang out more in cities, do more talks, go to protests, do all that? So I'm actually really looking forward to that. Because the last time I was in a city, I was really heading into the deepening of my conscious transformation, and I was undergoing another transformational kind of breakdown because my whole life was falling away, and then new stuff was coming in. You know, but that was when I completely kind of withdrew. I was so sort of still messy and navigating this void that it was like I needed to completely withdraw, which is part of a yoga practice in essence. You know, my time in Devon has been very reclusive, very withdrawn, and I've managed to, in my withdrawn state, link arms with powerful, embodied, integrated, clear channels, you know, and from that linking arms with that clarity and with those beautiful reflections, I feel strong enough to kind of go back into a bigger collective human energy field, especially with a base in Devon, because people can come out of a city environment, come to places with more nature and natural bodies of water around them and heal. So to have, you know, 2 different retreat centers to guide people to in Devon as I am being guided to back into the city, supported, and then, yeah, offer the juice, offer the vibration, offer the love in a city environment, and just see what comes up, you know, see what happens for the journey. So, and it's kind of cool because I'm actually starting to get excited about just like going out and going dancing and like doing things that people do. I just have not been doing in a long time, really. And yeah, it's exciting. Because do you know what the beautiful thing is, guys? This whole journey, what it leads to is like you just feel like a kid again. And I can honestly say, even though I'm like fierce and I'm super committed to like, you know, being the change and sharing the journey with you guys just as from my heart as possible, but I'm actually excited about life. I'm not afraid to be who I am in the world, you know, and I genuinely just feel like playing. Everything to me is kind of just playful, even though I'm aware of like edges in the kind of like auric field of humanity. I'm like aware of like various edges that like my freedom might bump up against, but yeah, it all feels like playful exploration, which I'm pretty sure is kind of the point. It's like if we're doing all this spiritual stuff to enjoy our lives, then at some point you're just gonna have to freaking enjoy your life. So keep being curious and keep exploring and keep feeling until you kind of hit this place where you're like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I'm good. And you can always be there, right? You can always drop into that. And yeah, when it comes to like being in the world, playful, joyful, sometimes having a bit of a tantrum, sometimes being like, rah, no, you know, like having the full spectrum of you and in just embodying it. It's like you don't get born with body hatred and body loathing. You get imprinted or absorb that. So once you shed all those programs and you shed all those densities and you're just like, I'm here and I'm here to play, and like, you know, like you see the kid videos about veganism and the kids in tears like, I don't want to kill the cow. And that's kind of what it's like, is that a lot of us are totally there. Like literally have a bit of a cry every time I see one of those trucks, you know, and see those fields. And it's just like, the compassion is real and the density is real. The weirdness is the people who are totally disconnected, and you're like, oh, so much distortion and pain, you know? And yet here we are. We can continue to be the vibrational cleaning crew, helping to shine light where there is darkness and to transform density when we feel it arise. Whether it's ours or other doesn't ultimately matter. Any energetic density is worthy of your transformation and is worthy of your light. Because when we shine light into density, we learn magical things and we harness a beautiful psychic and intuitive power that is beyond the veil. And that when you reach beyond the veil, your pure presence becomes the light of the world. Your pure presence just becomes the gift that you're here to be. So shine on, you glorious humans. And yeah, be you unashamedly, unapologetically, and stand in your integrity and trust and have faith that the people that totally line up with the truth of your being, they will just like a moth to a flame, like, king, oh hey friend, we've been friends for a long time, haven't we? Oh yeah. And then it's like, then you gel and you play and you have fun, and that's the mish. That's the simplicity. Just love your life, transform the density, and then play in heaven forever and ever. Amen. Anywho, there you go. Have a great day, you glorious beings. I love you loads, and wishing you just epic joy, happiness, freedom, hair. It's nice. Love you guys. Bye.